Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Last First Date Radio, featuring interviews with experts in dating, relating, and mating in midlife. And now, here's your host, Sandy Weiner.
Hello and welcome. This is episode number 367, Live Coaching with Jennifer. How do I not attract another narcissist? And I know this is going to be a topic that will really resonate for so many of my listeners. Hi, everybody. It's Sandy Weiner, and welcome to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it's never too late to have the love you want, and that a woman of value naturally attracts the respect and rewards she deserves in life and love. Every week, I bring you a tip on how to become a woman of value, which has become my catchphrase for women who have dignity, who really show up, stand up, and speak up in their lives and really align with their true selves. This week's tip is don't make assumptions. I think this was something that I was really surprised that I did so often when I first started dating after divorce and realizing how many assumptions I made about people, especially the men I was dating, and how important it is to really get present and not judge. We don't know what we don't know. So look at the facts. Don't make up stuff and fill in the blanks. So anytime you catch yourself thinking, oh, he must have done this because of that, or she did this because this. If you don't know, just drop all those assumptions and just get present and curious. Curiosity is what really helps you to bust those assumptions. So that's my challenge for you this week, is to get curious. Every time you have a thought in your head that you're making up, ask that person if you can and find out the truth. Before I bring Jennifer on, I want to just give a shout out for my amazing Facebook group. It's called Your Last First Date, and we are about 3,000 women strong in this group. We are women over 40 who are single or in relationships and want to do better. They want to be women of value in their relationships and in their dating lives. And so it's a very positive focused group. This is not the place to come if you just want to vent and talk about how awful dating is or how awful men are. This is a place to come to grow, to really learn best practices. So join my group. It's called Your Last First Date. Just go to Facebook, answer the questions to get in, and you will be part of the most amazing dating group out there. So I'm going to bring on Jennifer in a minute. And just as an intro, have you ever dated or been in a relationship with a narcissist? Well, my guest today, Jennifer, was married to a narcissist for 5 years. She's 5 years post-divorce, and she's been struggling a little bit with dating. She wants to not get involved with another narcissist as she dates again. And so I'm going to coach her now on how to avoid dating narcissists, getting attracted to narcissists, and finding true love. So welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm really happy to have you. So tell our audience a little bit of the backstory. So you were married for 5 years. Tell us a little bit about this guy you were married to so we have some context.
Yeah, I had met him in my late 20s, like 28 or 29, and he was 13 years older than me, and we ended up getting married when I was 30, and he, in the beginning, was very interested in my interests, and we did things that I like to do, which I thought he liked to do as well, such as exercising, things like that. Well, after we got married, I realized he did not like to exercise, which was fine, and then he didn't like to do some of these things that we were doing, and then he would start to belittle the things that I was doing, which was really strange to me. So he would start to complain if I was exercising too much, for instance, and I just thought that was just really weird, and so that kind of made our marriage kind of distant, and just because I felt like he was constantly telling me he didn't like things about me. So that went on for, the rest of the marriage, and then we just ended up doing things separately, and I started to realize I don't even know who I am anymore, because when I leave the house or he's out of the house, I feel a certain way. I feel more peaceful. I feel better. When he's in the house, I feel like a totally different person, more jumbled, don't know what I want, trying to people please. And that was kind of when I came to the conclusion that I needed to leave.
So you stayed 5 years. And,
right.
So you finally got sick and tired of being a shapeshifter and a people pleaser. And,
right.
Yeah, so this criticism, really awful. So, as you said before the show started, it was like a bait and switch. Like he started out one way, and all of a sudden he's got you. He's hooked you, and now he's reverting back to who he really is, which is none of those things that he made you believe in order to get you into his life. Correct?
Correct.
So yeah, that sucks. And what I want to ask, and I do this with all my clients, is we look at our downloadable family blueprint, and we all inherit certain attractions, certain types of attachment from our original relationships with our parents, with our other relationships that are significant in our lives. So I'm just curious if there's anyone in your family of origin that this man reminds you of.
I didn't know this probably until recently, but I would say my father and my grandfather, and I would also say my grandfather on my mother's side.
So describe a little bit about the qualities that are similar.
Just very authoritative, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but very alpha male. My dad wasn't really an alpha male, I would say. I'd say my dad was more of a passive aggressor. And looking back at when my mom would complain about him, nobody could see it because I think he hid it well, and then he unleashed it on her. But I think and then always like their needs were always put first, and it was always the woman kind of doing the things for them. Like my grandfather on my mom's side always wanted dinner on the table when he walked in the door. And then my other grandfather, he flew fighter pilots in World War II and had affairs on my grandmother, and my grandmother openly told me, like, this is what your grandfather does. This isn't okay.
So there's this hiddenness that was evident both in your father and your grandfather. Your father
yes.
having a hidden side to him that no one else could see, just like your ex-husband, and your grandfather. So this is all like clandestine stuff that to the outside they may have looked differently, which is pretty clear parallel, right?
Yeah, and actually you gave a great realization into like my dad kind of keeping it hidden. Nobody could see it. Everybody thought my dad was this stand-up great guy, and they always did. And that's what everybody thought about my ex-husband, and I had it in my mind as well. And then when you're alone with them, you can see all this. So I just now saw that parallel. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, we often don't see it. I tried to actually marry the opposite of my father and ended up with someone who replicated him so clearly to me in hindsight. But from the outside looking in, I couldn't see it. But what was interesting is somebody said to me that it was a good friend of mine who stopped being my friend, and I thought it was because she was jealous of me getting married before her. And we finally had a talk about it, and she said, no, you were controlled by him, and we were really scared, like what you were turning into. I couldn't see any of that. I couldn't see it. I mean, I knew there were red flags, but I couldn't see it. And so it's important to take this step back and connect the dots so that you're not repeating it, because that's what we're trying to do here, is not repeat these same patterns. And but it's very understandable why you would do anything but repeat the pattern.
Mhm.
So knowing that this was family history, this is what love looked like to you, right?
Mhm.
Love looks like a controlling male, somebody who women cater to. They cover up their stuff. They whatever. It's there are patterns here that were very similar to being married to a narcissist.
Mhm.
So now that we know what love isn't, because this is not what you want, let's talk about what love is to you today. Like, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for a partner in crime, somebody to explore with, somebody who is emotionally healthy. They don't need to talk about all the spiritual principles and concepts that I love to talk about, but I would like that they be open to them. I think that's something I couldn't live without, not being able to talk to him about things like, that you talk about a lot and things like that. That's kind of my interest, but somebody just to kind of I loved the other realization when we were talking about I feel whole, so I want him to feel whole, but I don't want to do it alone anymore. Like, I have so much more to offer now than I did in my marriage. And I think I could do it in a healthier way. And I want to receive that as well. I want to be able to receive that.
To receive what?
Somebody who is not needy, like emotionally healthy, who isn't looking to me to make them happy. Like my ex-husband, for instance, obviously I was satisfying some need in him that he needed.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Where.
Go ahead.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I just want to repeat back. So I'm taking some notes on your
okay.
What is love to you? So when you say a partner in crime, what does that mean? Like, be more specific about that.
We enjoy doing things together. We support each other in our endeavors. We don't judge each other, because I feel like in my marriage I was judged a lot. And just acceptance, acceptance of my bad parts as well, because I know that there are bad parts, and I want to be able to accept his as well. But I want to be kind to each other. Doesn't mean if he's, he can't be mean to me, I can't be like mean to him, but, just kind of accepting everything instead of what the opposite was in my marriage was, constantly being degraded because I did have certain feelings over certain events.
Yeah. So you want
and hashing stuff out. Like, I want to be able to argue in a civilized manner, not be told that I don't matter and like this is wrong. Like, we talk it out. We meet on common ground.
Okay, so somebody who's a good communicator, somebody who's kind and accepts all of you, not critical. Somebody who's emotionally healthy, who's open to, so when you say open to spiritual practices that are important to you, he's not judging them, he's open to them. So
right.
That judge word is a big one for you, not judgmental.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, I can feel that because you were criticized a lot. And so I'm going to flip that around for a minute. and ask you, how hard are you on yourself?
I was a lot harder, and I catch myself now when I'm doing it. And I do practice talking to myself like I'm talking to my best friend now. This is a new thing for me, and it feels very, very good. It feels very good.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we tend to be very hard on ourselves. So I ask you because whatever we want to attract, we really have to practice making sure that we're not stuck in judgment of ourselves or others, and that you're kind to yourself, which it sounds like you're really working on that. And I think the more you do that, the more you're going to be intolerant of men who don't treat you well.
Okay.
So when you wrote in, you actually wrote about something a little bit different. And can you tell us a little bit about the backstory of the younger men who ask you out, the older men who aren't working? Like, what's happening in your love life right now?
Yeah, so the reason it's all confusing to me is just because I feel like I've done some of this inner work and identifying these things and working on it. So it's confusing because so I'm 40 and it just so happens a lot of younger men are attracted, so like anywhere from 28 to 36, and I'm finding that in that age bracket, as I'm dating them, they're very they've been emotionally unavailable, and once you get close, whether like I had told you, like once eventually you either I tell them I'm not comfortable sleeping with them or I end up sleeping with them, they end up kind of either I don't hear from them again, just cold turkey, or their communications change and they start to dissolve. So I was trying something new. Like I tried dating an older gentleman who was 54, and we went out on a first date and everything seemed good. I wanted to see him again. We made plans to see each other again, and we kept in contact via text in between the second date, and he comes out of nowhere and asks me for a nude pic, and I told him, I said, I don't do that. I don't do that. I don't give it all over text. We've only had one date. And then, so I ended up canceling our date because my mind went to mush. I'm like, I don't know what to do now with this guy when I see him. And he ended up unleashing all this anger towards me about how he needs sexy banter between dates, and that was how I was going to keep his interest and all of that. And the thing is, I didn't mention is I vetted this guy out, I thought. I mean, he had been married 20 years, had 2 kids, divorced 3, was an exec of a company. It seemed seemed to be held together well, and I was like, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing?
So the younger guys aren't working, the older guys aren't working, but it seems like sex is a big part of this. And and also, when you're speaking about this 54-year-old, 2 things I noticed. One is he did something very similar to your ex-husband. He showed up as a very different kind of guy, and when you said no nude pics and canceled the date, his real side came out, right? He unleashed it, which is good. It's good that you saw it right away, but you thought you had vetted him really well. So the things that you mentioned had to do with longevity of a relationship. They had to do with financial stability, which I know we spoke before the show, and you told me that financial security is important to you, which is understandable. Those things are okay, but none of those things were on the list when you just talked about what love is to you.
Yeah.
So this is where you need to really focus, not on intelligence, not on how much somebody makes or how good he looks or how good he looks on paper. It's really about really getting clear on somebody who's supportive, somebody who's not judgmental, somebody who is open-minded, someone who's kind, who can talk to you about spiritual practices, somebody who's done their work and I didn't hear any of that in your vetting process.
How did I not notice that I didn't correlate those two? I'm glad I didn't even think that I didn't even mention that. It didn't even occur to me.
Right, so most people vet in exactly the same way that you did. They look at, oh wow, he went to Harvard, and he had a few long-term marriages or long-term relationships. Like he knows how to be in relationship. That's the assumptive piece where we're filling in the blank by we look at something, and then we think, okay, this means this and this means that. And so I'm glad today's tip was don't make assumptions, because I think this is good for you. You want to lean into get more curious about men. You want to have conversations that bring out what did they learn from their marriage ending. Like if a man asked you that, what would you say?
That is an excellent question. I learned that I truly did feel like I lost myself in it. I mean, I felt like but I learned that I had the strength to get out of it, and really once I did, I learned that once I held my own, I was able to be successful as a human being, as well as, in my career.
Okay. I like that a lot, but I want to tweak it a little bit. So first of all, I want to tell you what I liked about what you said. And this is an important thing to really form before dates, because asking that question of men, you're going to learn a lot about them. You're going to learn whether they're still blaming their ex, because I didn't hear any blame in that one. You didn't have any blame in there. You didn't say my ex was a narcissist. You didn't say he treated me terribly. He bait and switched me. You didn't say any of that. You took responsibility for yourself. You noticed who you became, why you needed to leave, and those are all really good things. The one thing I want you to focus on more is not your career, because we're talking about dating and not a job interview, but who you became as a person and what you're looking for in the future. So when you prepare these statements before you go on a date, and you should have a few of these about your passions, about the things that really make you come alive. This is how you form connections with the right men, by coming up with some of these pre-formed little statements about yourself that help a man get to know who you are, what your values are, through the passions that you have, through your interests, and what they mean to you. So here you overcame losing yourself. You were smart enough and together enough to get out before completely losing yourself. And what you know is that for the future, I'm looking to be in a relationship with a man who's supportive, who really, takes care of himself like I take care of myself. I learned I had to do some work on myself to get to where I am today. I'm really proud of who I am today, and I'm looking for a man to share that with me, for the right man. And so here's what happened. I would say it in less words than I just did, but here's what happened. Here's what I learned, and here's what I'm looking forward to. And how about you? What did you learn? And so you're going to hear some things, and you'll hear how the man felt financially ruined by this woman, or you'll hear that I learned that I really need to be in a relationship with a good communicator, because I didn't have that in my relationship. You're going to hear stuff that's going to help you see a man through the lens of what love looks like to you today, not what love looked like to you from your family history, from your marriage.
That question is so powerful. Thank you so much. That is huge. My question on that, though, what if they've never been married? Would you just ask that if they've been last long term?
Yeah.
What did they learn from that?
Yeah. What did you learn from that? So, when
Mhm.
we talk about younger men, older men, it really doesn't matter. Like you said, you went out with a much younger man who was more mature and more together than most of the older men that you
Yeah.
went out with. And I agree. I think when you take away the outside stuff, take away age, take away, height, all the lists that people have that keep them single. He has to work in the C-suite. He has to have more money than me. He has to own a house. These are all things that have nothing to do with how good somebody is in a relationship. So what you're
Mhm.
looking for is like, what's your relationship like with your family? Um, are you close with your siblings? Tell me about like one of your favorite family vacations. And you're going to hear, oh my God, we never went away. Oh wow, no, we went to Niagara Falls together when I was a kid, and it was amazing. Tell me, why was it so great? Like, what did you remember about it? And you'll start to hear, like, you don't ask somebody, what was your favorite trip, and then that it ends there. It's,
Mhm.
and who did you become, or what is the takeaway? So, like, people can be creative, for instance, but how are they creative? Are they creative through writing? Are they creative through thought? Are they creative through art? Um, we all have our own unique blend of everything. And so what you want to do is peel that onion, really find out what's underneath. What are the values that are important to this person? What do they do in their free time? What do they give back to society? Do they do any volunteer work? So if you
Mhm.
prepare some of these for yourself and say, I love volunteering for Habitat for Humanity because, and don't forget the because word. I loved it because I just love seeing the faces of the people after they see their house rebuilt, whatever. So that's just an example of I love giving back, or why you're now pursuing a new career, and why this spiritual practice that you have is so important to you. Not just that I do this, but why do I do this? And so what you want to do is start a conversation that's going to help him reveal more of who he is. And I think that's going to get you away from men who ask for nude pics, men who, want you to sleep with them. And these are men who are low investment. They're not
Mhm.
emotionally available. They're not emotionally mature. So it doesn't matter how well educated, what kind of job they have, how many kids they have, whether they, have a dog and they don't kick it, Those
Yeah.
are that's important, but um, those are not the things that are going to help you see. Not only is he a good date, but would he be a good partner? That's what you really want to know.
And I love this what you're saying because 3 weeks ago I went on a date with somebody and I didn't ask these questions as well as you did, but I was hitting on some of these with him and he looked at me and said, "Why are you asking me such weird questions?" And I thought, that's really weird too.
So yeah, I mean, give me an example of a question you asked.
Well, I asked him, about his family and his relationship with his siblings and his parents. Do they come out and visit and things like that? And he started to get jittery, and I just said, he goes, I'm ready to go. Are you almost done with your drink? And I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
what's wrong? And he goes, I get really jittery. And I said, well, what do you do if you have a lot of energy built up like that? What's your normal thing to do? He goes, why are you asking me such a weird question?
Mm.
When it was
So he
really his.
wasn't comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can feel like an interrogation if you ask too many of these questions. And what I would do in the future is share a piece of yours and start with the
Okay.
value. Family's really important to me, for example. Like you could start with
Mhm.
that. Family's really important to me. I loved having family dinners. Um, bring out some family memories, and um, I nurture my friendships. I've had the same friends since college. How about you? Do you have any friends that you're still in touch with? You don't want to get too interrogational because some men will definitely shut down. They don't want to feel like a deer in the headlights. So you want to
Mhm.
keep it fun, share some fun memories, share some fun passions, hobbies. That's the way to get him to share a little bit more of his. Like even a favorite movie or a favorite book. Don't make it too personal too quickly. You ever watch on Soul Pancake? You ever watch anything on Soul Pancake?
No.
You know what that is?
No.
So I check it out. They have a
Okay.
first date series that is so fantastic because it's basically blind dates with they match two people up. They've never seen each other, and they have to ask each other questions that grow in depth as they go. And so they do tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And they have to guess things about each other. They have to guess what the person's name is, what their occupation is, how old they are. So those are like very non-confrontational. It's kind of fun to see if they're on target or not. Then they go to what's your favorite music, band, then they go into like politically, you believe this. It's really fascinating, and I think you might get some good ideas from there also, just to see how things escalate from basic information that you want to know to knowing the depth of a person.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to be taken seriously and not be seen as a sex object or going on dates with men who are a repeat of your ex-husband and people who are really not interested in having an emotionally mature relationship, you've got to be more discerning. Really look at the qualities. Keep this front and center, the kindness, the emotional availability, the healthy emotions, and really get clear, like, what does that look like to you? What does a whole person look like to you? What are the qualities of a whole person? So that like, if a sense of humor is important to you, what does that look like? Do we laugh at, are we both sarcastic? Or do we like pratfalls? Do we laugh at the human condition? There's all kinds of humor. And so you want to get super clear what is appealing to you. What's that worldview that you have that you want to share with a partner? Because, even when you talked about your ex-husband, you talked about common interests. Common interests don't sustain a relationship in the same way as common values. That's where I think you were steered wrong. And so you want to go focus on values. Interests are second tier. If you would go back to that, first date thing from Soul Pancake, it's that second tier of, if we have the same values, then I want to know that we both like golfing. I want to know that we both like to exercise. But, if you wouldn't get divorced over a lack of similarity in exercise, you would get divorced if he wasn't kind.
Right.
Right? So that's kind of the litmus test. So I'm giving you homework, and the homework is to really clarify that list and, come up with 5 things that you absolutely must have in a partner. And with each one, ask yourself, who does this guy need to be? Would I get divorced if I was married to this person and it wasn't there? And that's how you really hone it down to the most important things. And then when you're going to go on a date, you're going to look for those things. And if a person has one deal breaker, person asks you for a new pick, you're done. You're not going to start second guessing yourself. Maybe, your mind won't go to mush because you're going to say, this is not a person who's on my list. And you'll be able to say, you know what, I'm looking for a very different kind of man, and I wish you well. That's it. And, start speaking up. Start really setting those boundaries around men who don't treat you well, and I know that you're going to start attracting in the right guys.
Okay. This was such great information, seriously. I really like how you've kind of helped me see things from different perspectives, especially that whole switch on, I didn't even mention the financial security and what I was looking for in a partnership. That was huge.
Well, I'm so glad that this was helpful to you. So tell me what steps you're gonna take to attract in the right person.
Well, I definitely I've definitely been looking at my values, and I do need to separate that from common interests. But I think my goal will be, when after kind of finding out some of these things about myself, writing them down, looking at them, and then when I go out on a date, looking for these values instead of maybe common interests. I think you're exactly right that I've been focusing on that, but really looking at the values. But I do need to take a step back on the questioning. So I think I can get really focused in, and I think I did scare that last one off because I was kind of drilling into him. So
yeah, and that's
meeting the
yeah. I think, reframing it as sharing your passions and sharing the things that are important to you instead of questioning and then throwing it back. So using the technique that I talked to you about, like, this was such a great memory. I remember being in this museum and seeing this Picasso painting, and wow, it just, or I love being in nature because it just calms me down. It makes me just feel so connected to the earth. How about you? Where do you feel most connected? So it's little, subtle, not, tell me about all your past relationships. It's really, it's a sharing, and it's really more of a conversation.
Yeah. No, I don't think I've been sharing enough. I don't think I've been sharing. That's exactly right.
So that's the second part of your homework. Come up with like 5 of those, and 5 memories, 5 things that are really important to you, and don't forget the word because. This is important to me because I love this because. And I learned this from my friend Bobby Palmer, who's also a dating coach, and I just love it. I think the because is your value system. It's why is it important to you? And then you want to know, why is this important to you? And try it with your friends too. And I would just start really having different conversations with people. You mentioned earlier to me that since you started doing this work, some people have fallen off your friend list, and that's good because you're getting clearer with what you want in your life. And you're definitely going to lose friends, but they're not really your friends. They're not people who really are there to support you and be there for you.
Yeah.
So this work it's so good. It's so important. And I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the future. So will you keep in touch and let me know how it goes?
I will, definitely. This was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer. And thanks, everybody, for listening today. If you really liked what you heard today, I am available for a consultation with you. If you're really ready to change your dating life and have the relationship of your dreams, you can fill out a form to get on a call with me. It won't cost you anything, but you have to be really serious about this. And to do that, you go to lastfirstdate.com/breakthrough. That's lastfirstdate.com/breakthrough, and we'll get on a call together and we'll solve your love problems. And if you love our show, please rate and review it on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I hope you go on your last first date. Have a great day.